The busy Coventry Eastern Bypass. Not the usual kind of place you'll find me filming wildlife, but a mere stone's throw from that busy road is a green oasis of wonderful woodland habitat. This is Piles Coppice, a Warwickshire Wildlife Trust nature reserve, which is now part of Brandon Reach. I'm here to meet up with my good friend and fellow wildlife filmmaker Simon Watts of Wild Presentations, who's invited me along to his local patch to film some nesting birds. After several recce's to the wood, Simon has found several active nest sites. And here's the first one. In the base of this tree is a great tit nest, and on the opposite side of the woodland path, in the uppermost slit, is a blue tit nest. In fact, all the nests we'll be looking at today are in trees. At the moment, we're watching the great tits. Both the parent birds are constantly to and froing, bringing food to the nest hole. The great tit is the UK's largest tit species. The great tit clutch can be anything from 5 to 11 eggs, and the female does all the incubation, but both birds will feed the brood and the chicks will fledge at around 20 days. Sometimes the bird will bring food and fly directly into the hole, but mostly they will alight on a nearby branch before eventually entering the nest hole. Every now and then, one of the parent birds will leave the hole with a fecal sac, a mucous membrane that surrounds the chick's feces. We turn our attention to our next nest, the blue tit's nest. All the time we were filming the great tits, the birds were busily in and out of the hole, but now, for whatever reason, they seem reluctant to go in. Sometimes birds will do this to try and coax the chicks to fledge, but I don't think the chicks in this nest are at that stage yet. I don't think they're particularly disturbed by our presence, but just in case, we'll move on further into the wood to our next nest. Piles Coppice is an ancient managed woodland which dates back to medieval times and perhaps even earlier, and there are signs of ancient coppicing. Our next nest is that of a nuthatch. The nest is active, but there's no sign of the birds, so we assume that the eggs are maybe being incubated or the birds have left for some unknown reason. So, from a filming point of view, that nest doesn't count, so we head deeper into the greenwood to the location of our next nest. In the hole in the middle of the birch tree there is the nest of a great spotted woodpecker, and we don't have to wait long for one of the parent birds to appear. It's the male, and if you listen carefully you can hear the chicks inside the nest. The male great spotted woodpecker has a distinctive red patch on the back of its head, but this male seems to have lost most of the red feathers. I'm not sure if it's because the feathers are wet or whether they've been damaged through going in and out of the hole all the time. I don't know. And as with the great tit, any fecal matter is removed from the nest. I'm just going to move to the right of the tree to try and get a different angle on the birds as they come in to feed the chicks. I say birds, but both birds are around, but it's the male who keeps coming to the tree to feed the chicks. I just lined up my Nikon P1000 with its 125x zoom. Just trained it on the hole, waiting for the bird to come back, and there we are, the male again. Officially, great spotted woodpeckers eat insects, seeds and nuts, but they also predate other nests. And there's more fecal matter being removed from the nest. And as you can hear, at the moment I'm being serenaded by this beautiful male blackbird singing away just above me there. I've just changed position again. I've gone to the left hand side of the tree to try and get a varied angle. Just set the camera up on the hole, and we don't have to wait long before the bird is back again. Once again the male, and the constant sound of the chicks inside, always begging for food. In the first close-up shot of the male coming to the hole earlier, I did think I saw faintly a chick inside, but as they get older they will come to the hole and stick their heads out and have a look around, but they're obviously not at that stage yet. Nice view of the male poking his head out there. Comes out of the hole and then goes back in, probably to remove any fecal matter once again. There we are. And after maybe 30 seconds, the bird is back once again. Looked like a crane fly in his beak that time. And this time he's flown to an adjacent tree. Okay, it's time we moved on to our fourth nest. You probably noticed earlier in the film, Piles Coppice is a bluebell wood. They've just started to go over now, and because we had the coldest April in 60 years and a wet May, it hasn't been a fantastic year for bluebells. Okay, we're just setting up cameras at our next nest, which is in a hole in a tree once again. This is the nest of a nuthatch, and as we await the birds there's always time to shoot a little bit of B-roll. And there we are. Unlike the last nuthatch nest we visited, we actually have nuthatches on view. The name nuthatch is derived from nuthacker, reflecting the bird's method of opening up nuts by jamming them into a crevice and hammering out them. Old country names for the bird include mud dabbler and mud stopper. Because of their habit of plastering mud around the entrance of the hole, they don't make their own holes. They'll take over a woodpecker hole and they'll use the mud to make the entrance smaller and more nuthatch sized. They'll also readily adapt nest boxes, though they can't resist plastering mud around the entrance hole, even if the latter is already the right size. Unlike the tree creeper, which only moves up the trunk of a tree, nuthatches will move both up and down. Nuthatches are highly sedentary and seldom move far from where they hatched. Once again, it's only the female that incubates the eggs, and she'll sit on them for around 14 to 18 days. And then once the young have hatched, they'll be fed by both the parent birds for around 23 to 25 days before fledging. And as one bird leaves, the other one comes in. This bird went into the hole and just stayed in the tree, and it didn't come out again while we were there. Maybe it was the female, and she decided to brood the chicks to make sure they were warm, as the day did start off quite gloomy and cool, but now the sun eventually comes out and breaks through the canopy of green leaves and bathes the woodland in dappled sunlight as we make our way to our fifth and final nest. I set the camera up looking at a nest hole through a gap in two trees, and this may prove to be the most difficult stakeout of the day, as this is the nest hole of a pair of jackdaw, an incredibly bright and intelligent member of the corvid family, and they certainly won't approach the hole while we're anywhere near it. So while we wait to get the shots we want, there's time to take in the sights and sounds of this beautiful ancient woodland, and the air is filled with the sound of late spring bird song. As we approach meteorological summer, I hear my first cuckoo for this year. And then at last, a jackdaw approaches the nest hole. Then we get the shots that we want of the bird going into the hole and then furtively leaving. And that's it. Time to head home now. Thanks to Simon for a brilliant morning, and thanks to you for watching. I'll see you again soon.